Thank you, everyone, for accommodating this virtual meeting tonight. The time is 7 p.m. on Thursday, January 15th, 2026. I'd like to call the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting to order. We'll start off with the land acknowledgement. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationships the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. A shared understanding of how the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. First up is the approval of the agenda. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda as circulated? Lindsay and Michelle, any questions or comments on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to the receipt of the minutes. May I please have a motion to receive the meeting minutes from November 20th, 2025? Bo and Irene, any comments or questions with regards to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We have no delegations this evening, so we'll move into the items for consideration. First up is memorandum from the manager of Parks and Recreation. Well, in this case, it's not just the manager, Sarah, we have the director who is here tonight with regards to the protection and commemoration of Aurora's oldest trees that hold natural and cultural significance. May I first have a mover and seconder to put the item on the floor for discussion? Irene, seconded by Chaz. Sarah, did you want to speak to this?
Sure. No, absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Just a little bit of background on myself. I'm director, but parks and arboriculture are near and dear to my heart. I'm a trained arborist through my schooling. So this report is something that we've wanted to work on for a long time. And through council, we had a motion to protect and commemorate the oldest trees in Aurora. So ultimately, this is going to be a policy that allows us to put a framework around how to do that and support that, and not just protect them in the short term, but have an end of life. Because a lot of them have cultural significance within the town, whether it's sentimental or whether it's due to its age or its species and events around it. So this way, if we have an end of life, we can collect seeds, we can grow some of these strains and put them back into our naturalized areas and have longevity of certain trees of significance for years and years to come. Yeah, so it's ultimately just a framework that speaks to it. It's about selection of the trees. It's about how we protect them and mitigate them to extend their life. It's about the end of life phase of them, taking the wood, maybe having artisans or things, or people, you do something with the wood. There's potential for us to put the wood back into the community through art projects, and even some financial return on some of these trees that have given, potentially hundreds of years of service to us. And also with that comes some commemorative plaques, having it more of a tourism thing. Irene and I have spoken about this over the years, and within the Arboretum, there's nature walks and tree walks, and including some of these trees that are maybe out on some of our streets and in our parks outside of the Arboretum as part of this program. So we're just looking for your feedback. Yeah, so that's essentially what it's about. So I'll open it up to any questions and look forward to what you guys have to say.
Any questions or feedback from the committee? Irene?
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly support this. I think being a tree person myself, and we've got some heritage trees in the Arboretum, we support this sort of thing. Just a question to clarify, it is under there's a heritage tree designation I think Ontario uses. I think they changed the name of what that is. I'm assuming this falls in under the Ontario program as well, or was it separate?
Sarah or Lisa, who'd like to answer?
Lisa probably wants me to answer that.
Okay, go for it.
So it certainly falls under some of the criteria of that, but this would be its own standalone program, Irene, through the
Okay.
town.
So we would be complying with the Ontario one and going even further perhaps than the Ontario designation.
Sarah?
Correct, because the Ontario designation specifically speaks to, well, it's private trees plus, any tree. This one at this point, we're just looking at municipal trees. But we're not looking at it as being solely on municipal. There's chance to expand it into private trees at some point. Also, it goes a little bit further because it has this end of life, and
Yeah.
the Ontario program doesn't have that. And we're looking at it from a tourism point of view as well.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's really good.
Thanks, Irene. Any additional comments or questions? Chaz?
Hi there. Thanks for this. I have a question about the kind of scope and breadth of this. Is this like trees weren't on my radar before this meeting? So like, are there tens or hundreds of heritage trees, and like, what's the effort involved in doing this?
Sarah?
So there's a lot of trees for sure. And that's why we're going to piece this off into some small chunks. The ones that are actually within our parks, and when I say a park, I'm not necessarily speaking about a woodlot, because there's numerous trees within woodlots that would, from an age point of view, potentially classify within this. This is more so from a street tree perspective and an urban park that is well utilized for recreation, walking, things like that. So in some conversation we've had with staff, this will be coming back to council, as you can appreciate, but right now we are, in my mind, we've kind of identified only about 15 trees that we would start with. Some of them are within the Arboretum. As Irene knows, there's some very large mature bur oaks that we've already done work on, and we give them fertilizer. We've done pruning on them. They're recognized already. There's commemorative plaques, things like that. So those ones are already on our radar. There's some large elm trees down on Henderson Drive, which I'm sure all of you have driven by. Maybe you don't realize that they're elm trees, but they're quite rare. They've actually been, they've stood through Dutch elm disease, which swept through Ontario probably 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and decimated the elm population. So those specific ones, we have actually worked with a University of Guelph, and they've taken tissue samples from those to, because they actually genetically are resistant to the Dutch elm disease. So that's those ones we've identified. There's a few other heritage trees within the old part of town, certainly in around Catherine Street, Town Park, that we have on our radar, but we're going to start with those ones to start, and then expand it. I mean, as you can appreciate, there's some funding that needs to come with this, and it's all part of our ultimate strategy to expand our urban forest. Urban forest is, certainly important, from a CO2 reduction. Also, we have very explicit targets that we've set with council's endorsement for a 40% canopy target. And so keeping these trees healthy and as long as we can keep them within the urban forest is important. So, but we need to bring along with it maintenance and funding associated so we can maintain these trees. So baby steps to start, but I can see it expanding over the years, and that's part of this, is that we can create a framework that we can project out which ones we will dedicate next, and whether we'll expand the program into private trees at some point, and maybe even into our woodlots. Our woodlots are fairly well protected right now, but bringing them into identifying some of them that are on significant trail systems will be the second and third phase of it.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Shannon, then Lindsay.
Thank you so much. I agree with Irene. I felt like it was a great framework. I really appreciated the look at kind of the jurisdictional scan as well. I just was wondering if there was any thought to regarding like Indigenous practices or traditions that could be included within the framework.
Sarah?
Yeah, certainly at this point, we haven't considered that, but I will make a note of that, because that is an interesting idea that we could certainly explore. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Anything else, Shannon?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Lindsay?
Yeah, I was just wondering, twice you've mentioned, Sarah, around expanding to private. Can you say a little bit more about what that would look like?
Sarah?
Yeah, so when I say private, there's quite a few mature trees that are within town. And they are actually, they could be on the people's frontage. They're part of the front streetscape, and those are the ones primarily we would be looking to identify. We're very well aware of some unique species and large caliper in rear yards of residents. Just over the years, arboricultural staff have, you can see them from the road, and we've knocked on some doors and had some conversations with people. So those would be secondary ones, but certainly the ones that are on frontages, it would be nice to identify them, especially when they have some unique qualities. And so we'd be looking to ask those residents whether they'd like participate, like to see something commemorative on their tree, and maybe there's a bit of a partnership we could work on with assisting them with some maintenance through some private tree companies we work with really closely that are quite interested in maybe partnering with us on some of this for exposure, and just because there's such a strong interest in preserving trees, especially mature, significant ones.
Lindsay?
No, that makes sense. I think interesting to think about the aspect of, privacy. Obviously, these residents would agree if they want to participate in the program, but having commemorative plaques on, private properties, especially for residences. But I think the support for maintaining those trees makes a lot of sense for our neighborhoods.
Any other comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, then if there's no further questions or comments, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We have no informational items this evening. Does anybody have any new business they'd like to bring up? Seeing none, then we'll call for adjournment, and everybody can either get back out there and shovel or rest after shoveling all day. Thank you for your time. All those in favor of adjournment? Meeting adjourned. Take care. Have a great night. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks.
Good night.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone.